If I may, I will change the direction of the conversation for a moment to a topic that's certainly dear to my heart, and I know is um, something that really interests John as well, and that's the idea of tools in coaching, and particularly the use of psychometric tests. We share a colleague, Zoltan Sigas, who surprised me a little bit when he told me about 9 months ago that less than 20% of coaches use psychometrics. And yet, if you think about psychometrics, and I know it's a tool, it's not something that you can use and say this is definitely you. It's an enabling tool. It's a real surprise that so few coaches will use psychometrics. And then when you look at it more closely, you begin to see that coaches will often use the wrong psychometric, or they'll use the most popular psychometric, or worse still, they will only have one psychometric measure in their toolkit, which is a bit like asking a carpenter to come and fix the door and he's only got a hammer in his tool bag. What's your view about the application of psychometrics in the world of coaching?
Well, when I first got qualified, one of the people in our group said I would never do any coaching unless I had done some form of psychometric assessment beforehand.
Yeah.
And there was uproar.
Yeah.
And she was the only one in a group of, I think, 9, 10 of us. She was the only one. And she was lambasted.
Right.
Because this was leading your client down an area that you want to go rather than they want to go. And I have to say that over the years, that stayed with me because it was quite a kind of heated discussion. And I've kind of taken the view that there is a time and a place for psychometric testing, and that it needs to fit with whatever the client is bringing that they need to work on. And if there's a psychometric approach which will help them get some more information around that, fine. Some companies actually prescribe it, and the coach doesn't work with it intentionally; it comes. So I'm not sure about the 20% number or where that comes from, but I think it is valid to say if someone has a need and the psychometric tool helps that, why would you not progress it? Because it gives you more information and potentially more data to work with. On the other hand, if I'm really giving the space for my client to do what they need to do, then my toolbox is there, but it's there and it's just waiting. I don't know where they want to go yet. So I think there is, in my view, where you have corporate assignments which are prescribed, we want this person to do X. And a 360 is part of that, or a psychometric test is part of that, fine. If it's this person just wants to explore where they are and how they can become more proficient, then I'm not sure I would be prescriptive at that stage, depending on where they come.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. It's just, I'm unusual here. I'm not a coach. I work with loads of coaches, and I see a lot of coaching practice. Coaches will work with clients to explore the client, how the client's dealing with different issues in life. But not all of that is visible, and not all of it is capable of being identified, even in the most skilled discussion. Sometimes there's an invisible bit that needs also to be explored, and I see a benefit there.
Within the mental toughness questionnaire, I think that works really well as something that you would move to when you've spotted something that triggers there's something off here, or there's something that you want to explore. So I think there is something about a coach being a seasoned toolkit user
Yeah.
and knowing which tool is likely to fit in which case. I've got my case with me. I'm not going to run into it. Let's just see what the issue is before I run into, say, we need to do this, because maybe we won't need to.
Mm.
Maybe it's a simple screwdriver as opposed to.
Yeah.
Do you think one of the issues is that psychometrics is misunderstood as an approach or a discipline? Some people obviously think it's black magic, and they'll happily look at almost any questionnaire, especially Ipsodeed questionnaires, that appear to produce a magic answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is some of that. Let me define myself, or let me be defined, so that I can say who I am and what I am,
Yeah.
and that then justifies what I do.
Yeah.
I don't think is a very helpful way of looking at psychometric testing, but unfortunately, that is the way that they're very often used in organizations.
Yeah. I think a great comment you made earlier, Stephen, was that people are looking to find meaning in their experience. And I think this is both the value of good psychometrics, not just good psychometrics, but good psychometrics used well can help provide more information upon trying to identify that meaning. The flip side of that is there's an allure of a quick answer. Like, let's see if I can manufacture a meaning by slotting me into a box, and then I don't have to try and do the hard work then to understand why I feel that way in that situation or act that way in that situation, because I've got this kind of fairly crude, well, that's me. And it almost, used incorrectly, I feel almost kind of inhibits that the hard work that it should take to get genuine depth of meaning.
Yeah, yeah. You're triggering something that happened to me a few weeks back. I was um, working within a team, and two of the people in the team volunteered that from an insights point of view, they were reds. And it was, we're strongly red. The whole team is red, and maybe with a bit of yellow, but we're really red. Okay, okay. And what does that mean? And so I get the platitudes and the normal sort of descriptors. But what does it mean for you? What do you mean? What does it mean for me? Well, you've done the test, so you can see what's it telling you. And there was no kind of thought about what this actually meant in terms of the everyday habits and things that would help them, if they worked, get better at or not getting better. I then offered one person the mental toughness questionnaire because I thought this is going to be appropriate. And it came out with a wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because
And that's what we want, isn't it?
and it was like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, now I've got it. Now I can see why, I need to have the goal identified and it needs to be really clear. And that's really important. Yeah, okay. But if we don't achieve it, it doesn't really matter too much. As long as we have the goals, because we have to review the KPIs. And if the KPIs don't fit, no one actually bleats about it. Just go and write another set of KPIs.
Mm.
Uh,
What's that about?
yeah,
What's gonna
I
hit
think
you?
that's when I say about that allure of like the sort of profiling tools, it's they have that kind of face validity to them in that people are often attracted to it, almost a bit like horoscopes in some ways, right? In that it confirms something. It feels, yeah, I can make that make sense to me, and I'm now I'm now not in this position of um, having to think about stuff. I have a reason. I have an answer. Oh yeah, that's like me. That makes sense. Brilliant. I can park this sort of cognitively draining reflection about myself, and I can just get on with my life. which is a really tempting thing to do. You know, we encounter something that you think this feels like it's cognitively quite hard. That makes sense. That simplifies everything. Brilliant. I'll just sail off into the sunset and I don't have to worry anymore. And maybe it's what I like, but if I'm working with someone, I want them to do more thinking about who they are and what drives them and why they do things or don't do things, not provide these kind of fairly simple answers that reduce the amount of self-reflection that they need to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I just like prodding people. I don't know.
You spoke there briefly about goals, and that's another thing that's interesting me. My background is slightly different to John's. I was trained as an economist, and in economics, you learn about the multiplicity of approaches towards goals. So we tend to think of goals in terms of an outcome, but also goals can be considered in terms of impact. So, very often you'll sit down with somebody and say they've got to achieve something in 6 months, but what difference will it make for them and for others in 6 months? Do you think people understand goals well enough, and do you think there's room to understand goals better?
Oh gosh, I mean, my original background is Procter and Gamble, which is a fantastic company and very goal oriented. And I'm working with a team at the moment where we're looking at the concept of OGSMs, objectives, goals, strategies, measures. And they're finding it really hard to fix something tangible that they want to achieve, because what they want to do is just to move as opportunity occurs, react to that, and it'll all be great. What they don't have is any forward thinking that says, if we don't create our own future, it'll get created for us.
Yeah.
And so this whole concept of goal, I think, is not just a question of do I have a number or do I have anything else, but do I have some direction which gives meaning to what we're doing that can then get the whole organization moving together?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that answered your question directly.
Well, it does, because it goes all the way back to Plato. When we see the roots of mental toughness in Plato's work on fortitude, but Plato was also very clear about the distinction between contentment and happiness, and he saw happiness as something that was subjective. People could be happy because they've got something that you might not have, but if you get it, suddenly their happiness evaporates. So that's not really an enduring state. The contentment is about understanding that you can achieve something, or you can feel you're on a journey. Like almost a Stoic approach that I may not have everything I need, but I know I'm heading in the right direction to get everything I need. And so I'm not worried about what anybody else has got. I'm content. And I think there's something in that needs to be built into goal setting. My last job, I worked for Castrol, and I was given 3 goals, but there were 3 hard goals. There were terms of cost per unit, terms of production, and in terms of customer satisfaction. There was nothing there about, and what state did it leave the company in? What state did it leave the workforce in? What state did it leave the suppliers in? We could achieve the targets by bullying the suppliers, but
is that what you did?
Simple goal setting. And I think if coaching has a value, it's also to get people to understand what a goal is and how a goal is impacting on the way they approach life.
Yeah. Well, I think this whole idea of systemic as well comes into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The impact of what I do on me and on others. Yeah.
There was on the kind of systemic issues point. I remember during the early parts of the pandemic, used to get so many inquiries to deliver webinars. Could you deliver a lunchtime webinar on mental toughness? Because we've perceived that we need staff to handle stress better. And eventually I started to think, well, could you maybe look at creating a less stressful environment for them? Like maybe it's not all about their capacity to handle stress. Maybe actually what you're doing is creating a climate whereby good people might struggle a little bit. And then I sort of think, if it was on the flip side of that, if you were going in and working with the staff members on a coaching point of view, I could just imagine getting these, sessions after sessions of people saying, what I'm being asked to do is impossible.
Yeah. I work with a firm that was on LinkedIn today, as it happens, saying how the firm is absolutely committed to creating the balance and the space for people to do what they need to do. And it is without doubt the most pressured place that I've experienced.
Wow.
Completely separate in terms of the reality from the way it's being described.
You see those things where, we're committed to this. So to action that, let's have staff fill out a lengthy report on their balance and, add to their workload, put on lunchtime webinars so they don't even get their lunch. A lunchtime webinar on work-life balance.
I was just thinking as you were saying that, the difference between am I teaching or am I doing something different, I think is really quite valid when it comes into the coaching arena. I don't know whether it works or not, but the concept of knowledge, skills, attitude, and if you're looking at knowledge, you're looking at training. If you're looking at skills, you're looking at probably coaching or mentoring, and if you're looking at attitude, you're definitely looking at coaching. However you define the skills, and I just find it's amazing how often you get asked to do something which is actually a knowledge-based element and asked to coach against it.
Great point.
Doesn't work. And then you wonder why they still have the same issue. Like, oh, that wasn't any good. No.
That's a very nice observation there. Because I predate Google by a long way, but knowledge, you can know anything you want at the touch of a button. Skills, you can go on YouTube and learn things in next to no time. But the one thing that you can't get easily is that attitude piece. So I guess coaching does have a future.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think that's a good point at which we can stop. So thank you very much for your thoughts. It's been a great conversation.
Pleasure.
Yeah, really insightful. Enjoyed that, Stephen.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Thank you both.